sambe ze parche pande la me shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Uta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanek Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanek Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munishas Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jitsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseje Ningne Solwa Debet Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Tede Malyob Gemel Hunge Drupra Chingi Lo Tsoni Saudan Diknu Shakpe Tse Dunge Namke Yinsu Lekshu Lapchen Tsoni Yonsu Tsoba Dan Cheranye Dun Chamra Chingi Lo Chanchu Pargenin Tsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siutru Lekshu Chanchu Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drupra Chingi Dagi Lona Chola Chokpa Dan Chemin Samjurang Emba Shiwa Dan Chodan Tumbe Dudum Malupa Bemel Hungi Drupra Chingil Dorna Tingne Tserav Tamchet Mardu Negav Tamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukche Chingi Dala Siksus Gongyab Dreve Nyamda Dachala Jetsun Lame Tuche Rabgongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Dramet Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Topra Sho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Drame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamge Yende Rab Dorje Change Koba Nyur Toba Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Çiktu Çingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Tudan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Çiktu Çingi Lo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Svoha chedan sogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sangye chedan sogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan sogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu drola pinchira sangye drupar sho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Namo yal haye ke da ludan je ke drundan da mi ke nam dan ro kum ke tanam che tsamba tam je ke de da ge che ten.
Good morning.
Stavo ricordando di una storia, un'aneddota,
There is a story, an anecdote,
fatto che Atisha,
according to which Atisha, once in Tibet,
di Lhasa,
nearby Lhasa,
incontra un'altra persona,
he met another person
certe volte i nomi
whose name I cannot remember,
quando li ho letti non ho dato
because
attenzione ai nomi.
when I read, I didn't really pay attention to the name.
Discepolo,
So this disciple met Atisha. He was, of course, very happy.
e un po' va lì dal maestro, fiero di sé, dice no, cosa stai facendo? No, io
And asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm here doing prostrations, practicing the Dharma."
Atisha lui dice sto facendo le
Atisha said,
prostrazioni, no, no,
said to him, "No, instead practice the Dharma."
sto facendo anche le offerte.
And the other one says, "I'm also doing offerings." And Atisha repeats, "I'm doing, please do practice the Dharma."
E a un certo punto lui
And he said, "But I'm also doing recitations."
sa delle cose che sapeva fare.
So
E a un certo
after a while, the disciple asks, "What do you mean by practicing the Dharma? What do I need to do to practice the Dharma?" And Atisha says,
allenati nella
"Train in the root of faith."
Sawate Bhajan.
Sawate Bhajan.
Jan vuol dire allenare,
Jang means training,
familiarizzare,
familiarizing,
volendo anche il termine allenare, però sviluppare,
means training, developing the roots of faith.
Immaginiamo facciamo un'altra immagine.
Let's take another example, and then we will go back to this one.
Risposta di Atisha. A un certo punto vogliamo andare da qualche parte.
We want to go somewhere.
Per andare in quel posto
To get there,
c'è una strada che non è facile.
there's a road which is not that easy.
Facciamo è che se
So
vogliamo andare camminando dobbiamo trovare
if we want to walk, we'll have to have the appropriate shoes, we'll have to train. If we need to use another vehicle, we'll have to use for the right car or the helicopter.
a un certo punto riusciamo a trovare
So we find the right vehicle and we like it very much.
però rimaniamo intrappolati
But we are trapped in the vehicle. How beautiful is this car or these shoes, the performance of the car. And at a certain point we lose sight on the destination. The objective remains just to use the vehicle.
cambiamo strada perché
So we drive around, we go another way to show it off. Then we go to the car trade show. We go to a car club, and so on. And everything rotates around the vehicle, and we lose sight on the path and especially on the destination. And we feel proud that we are in the path because we have the right vehicle, the beautiful car. So another example is I had to take this car to drive in the woods. It is interesting to see that sometimes we buy huge cars like jeeps and so on to stay in the city. And this generates a kind of identity. I have a jeep, and there is somehow an identity connected to this. Even if I don't go off-road with a jeep. Sometimes I buy the vehicle because I have a dream about going off-road with a car. So in the meantime, I have this car and I feel I belong to that dream and I get lost in it. So Atisha said, train in faith. What does this mean? What does faith mean?
La definizione di fede
Definition of faith is believe in the existence, in the potential, and in the functions of something. So, for a second, let's get out of the traditional concept of faith we usually have. The man, the woman of faith, and so on. Let's try to think outside of this box. For example, we have faith in water. If we are in a situation where we're extremely thirsty, if I'm very, very thirsty, what will drive me to find water? First of all, I believe that it is possible that I can have water, it exists. I believe that water is of the right temperature, it is clean, and has all the features of water. And also, I believe that water can clean, can eliminate thirst, and so on. So, I'm thirsty. I don't want to stay in this situation. I have faith in water, and therefore I will seek water. So, faith is what exists at the basis of aspiration, or in other words, desire. We cannot desire something if we don't have faith in that. And we won't put energy unless we have aspiration or desire towards that thing. Usually, in a virtuous environment, we use the word aspiration. In a non-virtuous environment, we use the term desire. Anyway, if I want something, if I want to be wanting something, I need to believe in that. But also, in faith, this faith is divided into two types. I have faith in water, but to desire water, I need to have faith in the fact that I can have it, that I can acquire it, that I can get it. I can have faith in water, but if I believe I won't be able to get it, to obtain it, I won't be able to allow myself to have the desire to reach out to water. So the example I used often, many years ago, for the first time I bought a car. So I needed a car. When I arrived in Italy, I was using a 14 years old Peugeot car. I was driving very fast and the car was shaking. So later on, I needed a car. I had a certain budget and I thought, so I tried to find the right car for that budget and for the type of car I wanted to have. So I made a search. And while searching, I went to the Netherlands to teach. And at the airport, I saw the advertisement of Rolls-Royce cars. And it was written, if you ask for the price, this is not the car for you. And it is true. And I realized that, of course, Rolls-Royce wasn't part of the target cars I was looking for. But if I had money, then my wishes would go up to that. But there was a group, let's say a range of cars, which did have the characteristics of the car I was looking for. But I didn't have faith that I could be able to buy it. Then if someone came to me and offered to buy a car with lifelong installments, then I would consider being able to buy it. Then I would develop trust that I could acquire it. But to be able to put effort in anything, we need to have trust in that thing, faith, but also to believe in our own capacity to obtain it. So there are two aspects, both equally important. Otherwise, we are trapped in an idealized faith, but I will never be able to get it. So we are trapped in this kind of faraway desire, kind of enchantment, where we also feel the victim, I will never be able to acquire it, it would be great, but I cannot, and so on. So that would mean putting energy into something I would never be able to get, to reach out to. So we need both aspects. Faith is made of three types. First type of faith is blind faith, so translated. So we believe in something because we heard about it. Someone told us about it. I don't have experience about that, but a person told me about that, and I have faith in that person, or a little bit, but this person repeated it so often, so many times that I believe into that. But the basis is having faith, at least in the person who's talking about that. The second type of faith is we believe into something because we have experienced that. I drank a little bit of water, I saw that it worked. I had at least a partial experience. So my reasoning, through a logical or experiential process, I got to believe that this works. So this is the ideal faith. So this is based on our experience, comprehension, and very often very often in the Dharma we need someone to show us, and then we are able to develop our own experience. The third type of faith is to have faith in someone who is a role model, someone we want to become like, someone who is inspiring us. So when Atisha said to practice the Dharma, you have to train in the root of faith, in the faith which is the root. So what do we mean by faith? What is faith in? Gangchen Rinpoche often had this beautiful way of translating the various aspects of the times we're living in. He had this special characteristic of being a kind of chameleon. In different environments, he would just get adjusted to them. Different cultures, he would adapt to them. And it looked like he was part of it since ever. And this happened in many, many situations where I was struggling to adapt and he was just doing it so naturally, based on this profound love towards who was in front of him. So he was able to adapt to us. Everything transmitted by the Buddha during the centuries, by our lineage, in a more accessible way to us and to our reality. So there was this sentence as his own motto: inner peace is the most solid foundation for world's peace. So having faith in what exactly? Having faith in inner peace as a base to have faith in world's peace. In other words, when we say, "Oh, may all beings have happiness and its causes, be free from suffering and its causes, may there be peace in the world," is pretty much the same. Just in other words, but having faith that it is possible for me, for you, for everyone we come across, that it is possible experiencing a state of peace, balance, satisfaction, joy, and live based on this state is sustainable, that can last over time. So to be clear, it's not easy to have faith in this. Often we get to Buddhism, we like it, but after all, we don't really like the path to it, but we prefer the off-road. We like the vehicle, the context, the environment, the people who are part of this setting. Look at the teacher who is guiding us. Look at the lesson. But where does this lead to? I don't know. I don't care. Is it clear? Often we get trapped in the tool, in the vehicle. So this disciple said, "No, I'm doing prostrations, I'm doing offerings, recitations, and so on," which are useful things, beautiful ones. However, these are just tools to get to somewhere. And we can't lose sight of that destination. So
non avere quello in vista, rimanere, perché sennò uno finisce a girare intorno a se stesso.
if we get trapped in this loop,
A un certo punto diventa più importante essere buddista
it becomes more important to be Buddhist rather than practicing the Dharma.
Non so se è chiaro questo.
Is this clear?
Sviluppiamo un certo senso di appartenenza.
We develop this kind of feeling of belonging. I am, I do. We're super busy doing everything in this setting. But truly, do we have faith in inner peace, getting out of samsara? How often do we reflect? Do we get aversion towards suffering?
Quante volte
How many times do we connect effectively
i conflitti che ci sono nel mondo e
the conflicts in the world and the conflicts which are part of myself and my life arise from mental defilements and karma? How often do we think about it? Be honest with yourself.
perciò è importante ritornare
So it is important to go back to this. Train in faith.
di quello che io voglio, ma nella
Faith
la posso fare.
in the fact that I can do it and
Fondamentali vanno
what I want.
ed è
Which
questo che ci porta
these two types of faith go together and lead us to another type of faith. The faith that there is someone who can guide us in this path.
perché io voglio arrivarci.
Because I want to reach the destination.
Adesso non è questo l'argomento specifico,
This is not the main topic, however.
brevemente.
Briefly, it is interesting to notice that if we don't have faith in the destination,
Se noi non abbiamo la fede
if we don't have faith that we can make it,
direzione e la voglia di
so the direction and the wish to get into that destination, we won't be able to truly take refuge and have a real relationship with our guru.
Ripeto, possiamo avere un rapporto con una persona
We can have a relationship with a person who I call guru, but that is not a real relationship. It's like saying I go to the dentist because I like him. He's a nice person.
posso andare,
I can go. I can make up some excuse.
non mi lavo i denti,
I won't brush my teeth on purpose to go to the dentist.
simpatico, carino,
He's a nice guy. I like him. Because I like him, I will
dei denti piuttosto che perché
I will study more about the mouth and the teeth, but it's not because I want to take care of my teeth.
sono cose diverse. Lui diventa il mio dentista vero e proprio
He will be my dentist when I really want to take care and heal my teeth. Otherwise, I can call it a different kind of relationship, but he will not be my dentist. So, first thing is to train, go back and clarify what do we want to achieve? Where am I going? Do I believe in that or not? And this is a difficult point, at least for myself. For many years, I reflected upon this. I was challenged. This was when I was roughly 18 years old.
comunque sì,
Now I'm 42.
all'epoca lì mi trovavo in India, stavo studiando il Dharma in un modo
I
abbastanza
was in India, I was studying the Dharma,
nel libro che
and in the book I was studying,
faceva riferimento a un certo
this book
verso di Lama
was referring to Lama Tsongkhapa's verse.
e il verso dice
And the verse said,
korwe punsola yimenke chitsamya mike shin insen kundu tarpa tönyerlo chungna tetsenge chung kebala.
translation is,
Improvvisata dice se avendo meditato in tal modo
if you have meditated in that way, if you have familiarized with the precious life, the impermanence, the certainty of death, the certainty and of the uncertainty of the time of death, having familiarized with samsara in general and so on.
Avendosi familiarizzato in tal modo, se non nasce più piacere, non nasce più
If
attrazione
there's no more
e soddisfazione
pleasure, satisfaction, attraction towards
piaceri mondani
none of the mundane pleasures,
e di giorno e di notte,
and during the day and during the night,
hai la mente di attrazione
you have that mind of attraction towards liberation, towards freedom. If you get to that point, you will have developed renunciation. And I thought,
l'innamorarsi della pace interiore vuol dire il volere a tutti gli effetti
if I haven't fallen in love with inner peace, if I haven't developed that wish to get out of the cycle of suffering, if this is the entrance gate in the path, it's like the toll gate in the highway, that is really the beginning of that path.
se quell'inizio è già così faticoso
But if the beginning is so challenging already,
nel passato
and I thought in the past someone will have managed, but if I look at myself and people around me, is this really possible?
andato in crisi
So that was a crisis moment for me. What was I doing? Studying Buddhism, living in that environment, if I didn't believe truly in the objective and the why. I was really enjoying what I was doing. I liked the people around me, I loved the studies I was doing, the lifestyle. Everything was at all not a sacrifice. I really enjoyed it. But I asked myself,
come se io in qualche modo ci fosse un aspetto falso, è come se
I was like,
non
I
fosse
was
vero quello che stesse facendo,
lying if I didn't really believe in the why.
io non so, sin da piccolo
So,
non sono mai stato una persona
fortunately, since I was a small child, I never took decisions in a second. I usually reflect, and little by little I take a direction, and to change that it takes equally long time. So I continued to study, but I started an inner research process, and I talked to 3 of my masters. It was around 1999, and this process lasted 2 years. I talked to Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and my main philosophy teacher. And each of them gave me a hint. None of them gave me a clear answer, which was the clear key.
non è un qualcosa che chiede la risposta è fatta, è un percorso interno.
Because this was an inner process.
La prima parte
So the first part
è che la cosiddetta rinuncia
was that renunciation
non è il voler rinunciare,
isn't wanting to give up on something, but falling in love with something else. It's a feeling of where do I project my happiness? What do I really want?
quello che ho capito è che per me
And I understood that it was important for me
l'aspetto fondamentale del sentiero che è questo desiderio
that the wish for inner peace, balance, stability, which goes beyond
qualunque forma
anything form of suffering, this is based on a feeling that we already have.
ed è quella stessa forza che ci fa fare
And it's the same force power that drives us towards everything. Attraction to happiness and aversion to suffering. So this is not an impossible feeling. This is something we already have, but we have to direct it somewhere else. It's like before, I wanted chocolate, today I want pasta. I need to redirect this feeling towards what we desire, what we want.
l'importante è ridirezionare quell'energia che abbiamo.
This energy must be redirected. So this feeling is the gate of entrance of the path, having clarity where do we want to go. This is a love act towards ourselves. Second aspect is
Che per quanto potesse essere ovvio,
It is important to understand, it was important to understand that the process of developing this kind of renunciation is a gradual path, little by little. Isn't something that there is or there isn't. It's something that we slowly feel, we connect slowly with some aspects, like the importance of inner well-being rather than the external condition, the importance of love, compassion, gratitude. And little by little, gradually, we are more and more convinced that it is important where I am, but how do I relate to the situation I am? So we slowly shift from the paradigm of utopic materialism to a paradigm where we believe that happiness depends on inner conditions rather than outer conditions. And it is possible to achieve this state of inner peace. Third point is, when I was with my philosophy teacher, Dalai Lama gave me the perspective to see the renunciation as something as beautiful, not abandoning, but something beautiful. Lama Gangchen Rinpoche showed me this aspect of gradually achieving something, while Tubchen Rinchen, my philosophy teacher, he asked me, is it possible to diminish anger? I said yes. I never really had this problem, but I have others, and I saw people who manage to diminish anger. But how much? As long as it doesn't exist anymore. Or there's a kind of threshold. But the threshold, the real one, is when you don't have anger anymore. It doesn't matter the situation, it doesn't break your balance. So my teacher said, is it possible to eliminate envy, jealousy, attachment, and so on? And I said, yes. It is a challenge, it's not easy, but it is possible. And he said, is it possible to develop more love, to love people more and more profoundly, in a less selfish way? And I said, yes, it is possible. If we direct ourselves gradually, every day, we can become less selfish. We can have same way, become less selfish, have more wisdom. Do you think it is possible? Yes, of course. And what is the limit of love? How many beings can I love? After 5, threshold, the maximum limit. What is the real limit of love is our own selfishness. If I love in a selfish way, where I love you because you benefit me and the mine, that is my limit, which is not a number, but is a limit based on interaction. When I can love unconditionally, so there are no conditions to it, I love you because you exist. At that point, there is no more limits. And that is so-called the big love, the unconditional love. So, it is a gradual process. It is based on the power that I already have. And I can see that it is possible to step up in this gradual process. Even more when I had that experience of people who were and are the example of who I want to become. For example, Lama Gangchen Rinpoche. He was a person who had problems in his life. I'm sure many of the difficulties he had to face, for most of us, it would mean taking antidepressants. He had really difficult situations. We don't need to get into detail, but, for example, he had this characteristic of seeing something and believing that something was the path, even if he found the whole world against himself, he would do it anyway. Then if someone was able to convince him that something was wrong, of course he would take that advice. But he made choices having lots of people against himself, even in a harsh way. But 20 years later, they realized he was right. But at that moment of making the choice, it was really, really challenging for him. So he faced many difficult situations, but I noticed, being close to him, that even if these situations were not so pleasant, at the same time I've never seen him losing his own balance, his own joy, objectives, direction, losing faith in the path, in his gurus, in himself. He always kept this stability, this joy, sense of peace. And he was an example of who I want to become. He showed me this was possible. This is possible. So, after that moment of realization of the process, this really changed something in me. That crisis developed non-trust into something very stable, because crisis brings opportunity. In our spiritual path, there's a moment where we enter a path, a spiritual path, because we like the group. We like the vehicle, because we need to feel that we belong to something. And then we come to a point of crisis. What am I doing? Where am I at? And this crisis allows us to profoundly ask ourselves, what am I doing? And reconnect with the real objective. For example, I like the people who belong to this path, I like the vehicle, but that is not the point. I don't have any more attachment to that. There is a verse where the Buddha says, when you get to reach the other bank of the river, don't continue to be attached to the boat you used. And don't judge the other people's boats. Don't pay attention to the sail, to the motor, the way they get to the other side of the bank. Each of us have different means to get to the other side, but the most important thing is to get to the other side of the river, to reach the other bank of the river. And this refers to the different spiritual traditions. My tradition is not better than yours. I have no doubt that the spiritual tradition, the Buddhist one, Gelupa one, the lineage of Gyawan Sapa, which gets to us through Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, I have no doubt that it is the best lineage for me. It works very, very well for me. I'm convinced about that. But it doesn't mean it's the best one for other people. And it doesn't mean it is the absolute best. So it is important to have faith in what we do without having the arrogance to say everything else is wrong. So I'm saying all of these to reach to the main point. It's something very simple but very powerful. Our mind has a very specific feature, something very much studied, scientifically proven, and so on. Often in research studies, often when we hear research studies, we believe in something even more. When we have interest in something, when we develop passion towards something, desire, when we direct our mind towards something, it's like the mind somewhere unconsciously made everything possible to get to that thing. So we start seeing things which we haven't noticed before. Today we took the example of cars. Often when a person is looking for a car, sees a certain type of car which hasn't noticed before and then starts seeing it everywhere. I bought it and now suddenly everyone else bought it. What happens is that this part of our brain, of our mind, helps us. It's like a filter of the whole bunch of information we receive and helps us to filter, to choose what really interests us. So this filter is based on our wishes, on our aspirations, desires. If I have a profound desire for inner peace state, developing patience, joy, satisfaction, if I have profound desire in this path of spiritual growth, this system, anterior reticular system or something like that, this system will try to filter all situations to show me anything which sustains that kind of desire. I will see the right opportunities. It reminds me an important master in Italian Buddhism. He arrived in Italy at the beginning of the 60s. Every time I talk about him, I imagine this master who left the ancient Tibet, where he was one of the main Gelugpa masters, just agreed together with the Dalai Lama in the Tibetan country. He got to India in 61 or 63, and Dalai Lama sends him together with another master to Italy with Professor Tucci. So I imagine him in Italy at that time in Rome. So he loved to watch TV. And he would spend time watching TV, soap operas, and more. And while watching TV, he constantly saw examples of Dharma practice. Look at that, attachment doesn't work. Look at that, impermanence, and so on. He was seeing examples after examples, even in soap operas, because this was his world, his interest. So his system made him resonate not with wish, with desire. So this is an example of how we live the world as a reflection of our aspiration, what we want. And the danger here is when we don't know what we want. When we lose sight of any objective path, because what matters is somehow enjoying pleasures here and now, experiencing here and now, and not having an objective of where I'm going. So living everything as an objective, not as a way. What we have now is life. Our way to get to enlightenment is life itself. Is the words we use, the thoughts we have, the interactions we have, the choices we make. These bring us towards liberation from samsara, towards enlightenment. It's how life is lived. And the most powerful tool is life. Thoughts, interactions, every moment. So again, when we have a desire towards something, when we have an inspiration towards something, when we have passion towards that, our system, subconsciously, not conceptually, will help us to get to that objective. If I have an inner dynamic of nurturing through criticism, through complaining, seeing the negative side, my system will help me to see things and go back to that point, to that state. If I have gratitude and I want to go in that direction and I feel gratitude, my system will help me to see everything which help me feeling gratitude. So we need to train in faith. What do we want? Where are we going? Faith in ourselves, that we can make it, that we are already making it. I'm far away. Yeah, me too. Buddha said something which can be heard as tricky. He says that his own path to get to enlightenment, since he developed renunciation, it took 3 eons. 1 eon is a very, very long time. But in eons, there are different types of eons. Shorter, longer ones, and very. Tamme is a number which is 1 with 50 zeros. Tamme is this, which means uncountable. So the uncountable eon is the measure of the longest measure of length. And Buddha needed 3 of these to get to enlightenment, since he developed renunciation, since he developed this passion, profound passion of getting out of suffering. So when the majority of people, when hear about this, please don't tell me this, I will never make it. So bad news. It's so challenging. Where's the story about getting to enlightenment in one life? This makes it impossible, and so on. So let's imagine that we are in front of a huge mountain. Like Mount Rosa or Mount Kailash, Everest. And my objective is to get to the peak. Someone says, from here, there is a huge ice and rock wall. If you're able to hike up, maybe in 5 years, you can get to the peak. So this is the quick path. An alternative? In alternative to the 5 days, there is a long path, slowly walking, going up and down. It will take you 5 years instead of 5 days, but you will equally get there. What's the quickest way?
Scalare,
Hiking up or walking? Hiking up 5 days or walking 5 years? What's the quickest way? The quickest way is what am I able to do?
provo a scalare, cado, mi faccio
Because if I try to hike up, climb up, and I fall down, then I will have to rebirth.
o magari devo dire no, io devo scalare, quindi
Or if I say I have to climb up, then I need to train, get ready, go to the gym, and so on to be able to climb up in 5 days. So there are two main concepts here.
dove voglio andare,
Know where I want to get,
io ho la fede dove voglio andare,
and
ricordarci che il punto di partenza più
the starting point
già mi trovo.
is where I am at the moment.
E il sentiero più veloce
And the quickest path is the one I'm able to follow.
che ci sia un sentiero che ci vogliono 5 anni
5 years. If in 5 years I can walk through and I can make it makes it possible for me.
e la cosa importante da capire è che quando io non
And
sto camminando verso andare in cima alla montagna
if I'm not walking towards the peak, I'm still walking but somewhere else.
il corso spirituale
So when the spiritual path is long, but the alternative is
di comunque camminare
to walk anyway.
tutte le nostre azioni noi ci
With our actions, we are always transforming ourselves. We're familiarizing ourselves. So body, mind, in every instance.
trasformare in una direzione
And the path means transforming ourselves in a direction or another.
non è che
So the point isn't having a long path. The point is, where am I going now?
come abbiamo detto tante volte non
As we said many times, we're not in a hurry to getting to the destination. We are in a hurry to understanding the right destination, having clarity where do we want to go.
traducendo in parole semplici
So in other words,
ho capito questo la prima volta che sono
I understood it the first time I arrived in Albagnano along the lake.
facendo un riassunto veloce
In a nutshell,
il mio obiettivo fondamentale
my main objective isn't to have a perfect life, resolving problems.
il mio obiettivo principale
My main objective is to be well with myself, in harmony with myself and with the others,
indipendentemente di dove sono
independently where I am, the situation I'm facing, or the people I'm with. This is the main objective for me.
cambiare il mondo ma cambiare il modo in
Not changing the world, but changing the way I relate to the world. And this is possible. We can all make it, and we're making it, slowly.
perciò la conclusione è
So the conclusion is,
tornare su che cosa vogliamo
go back to what we want, to faith,
sulla fede in noi stessi
in ourselves, in the path,
porta la fede a chi ci guida a chi ci aiuta
in who helps us, sustains us, guides us, in the faith, in the Dharma, in the Sangha, in the Guru, in the Buddha,
perché ho fede nel
because I have faith in getting out of samsara, reaching this state of profound inner peace and helping others to achieve the same, going back to inner peace and world's peace.
se facciamo questo naturalmente tutto il nostro
So naturally, our whole system unconsciously will help us to see that path, to see the world through that profound desire, wish.
una delle cose pratiche
So one of the main practical things is to wake up in the morning and ask ourselves, what do we want today? And put some beautiful objectives, virtuous, joyful things ahead.
naturalmente cercheremo il modo
And we'll naturally find a way to obtain them.
Facciamo le nostre dediche.
So we will do our dedications.
Alame kutse rapten chi namkara chinle chokchur gepadan losan tembe dreme sasumki drove musel taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang drame chiki pela longche chi sadan lamgi yunte rapzo ne dorje changi kopa nyur tob Sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin yinsen taktu delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lobo kuncho sumki ngodrub sol kuncho sumki Sho all'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Buona giornata a tutti.
Have a nice day.